How's it going, everybody? And welcome to this special discussion here on GameXplain, because today is the 1-year anniversary of the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. And joining me are two Xbox experts. We got Sean Capri from the Xbox Drive podcast. How are you doing?
I am here for the puns, Joey. I appreciate you, man. It's we've got lots to talk about, and I'm glad you kind of reminded me that we're here at the 1-year anniversary, because I forget birthdays, I forget anniversaries. I'm a bad husband, I'm a bad spouse, and here I am, man. I'm stoked to talk to you about this.
You got your notebook already? I see it right there.
Got to close the work notebook, gonna open the content notebook. I've got things to talk about, my friend.
Oh my goodness. And also joining us is Samuel Adams from the Exhibition podcast. How you doing, Sam?
Doing fantastic, man. I mean, we've got the 20th anniversary of Xbox, 20th anniversary of Halo, 1-year anniversary of Series X. It's like, it's the time, dude. This is it. Super happy to be here.
This is it. This is the time. Let's rewind a little bit back to when the Xbox Series X launched. I couldn't pick one up day one. Were you guys able to? I assume you would, because big Xbox.
I have
right?
a great spouse, actually. My wife is wonderful, and I was picky about the whole pre-ordering situation, because a lot of people went online, Amazon and whatnot, and I had kind of seen pre-orders get delayed in shipping, and I wanted that sucker on day one. Right. So I wanted to make sure that my pre-order was in store. And so in Canada, we had EB Games. My wife went over. I was unable to go at the time that I needed to. So she went over, she took care of the pre-order, and everything was all hunky-dory from there, my friend. But in the end, I was very lucky because Xbox Canada was able to send us over an Xbox Series X for review that I unboxed from the back of my truck.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a good time. It was very cold outside. I nearly dropped it. But yeah, man, I've had a Series X since before day one, actually, even though I had one pre-ordered.
Very cool, very cool. What about you, Sam? Were you able to pick one up day one?
I actually was in the first wave of pre-orders on the day they opened at Best Buy. And so I went, I think my Best Buy was doing this kind of tiered release where you could go as early as 6 a.m. and pick it up. And so I was spot number one, line in front of the door, middle of a pandemic, there to pick up my Xbox Series X. But it was super cool. All the employees were awesome, and we all, kind of talked about the newest launch games and all that good stuff. But yep, I have been playing since day one.
Very nice. I was not able to get one day one. I went out when I think I was about to pre-order one before, but I was just like, I don't know if I have the money for this. I don't know if I feel comfortable shelling out that much for it right now. I also noticed like there was pre-orders like 2 days before launch, but they wouldn't get here until December. So I was like, in the end, in hindsight, I should have still done that. But I went out to just see, hey, maybe they have one laying around. Of course they didn't. Those things sold out like crazy, sold out like mad. So I was luckily able to pick one up in January through a GameStop bundle. Got a second controller with it, so that was really cool. I don't remember if I got any games with it. I got 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate. It was really good stuff. I still spent a lot, but it was worth it to me because new Xbox, and I was just like using the whole, hey, I work in games media now. I should definitely get one of these suckers. So I used that as an excuse, and it was a great excuse. But what kind of games do we pick up or play on launch? For me, I just continued playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I had it on my Xbox One X, so I transferred it over to the Series X. Played in just sweet 60 FPS. Changes everything. I just love Xbox Smart Delivery. It's a feature that PlayStation 5, frankly, just doesn't have at all. It's just a pain to transfer stuff on PlayStation 5, but Xbox is just like, hey, this is the same game, so it's just going to be the same thing on the Series X with Series X enhancements.
So day one was also a Valhalla day for me. It kind of reminded me a lot of the Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag release on the PS4 and the Xbox One, where it was just like, Ubisoft had a big open world game that I knew I'd get a lot of bang for my buck with. So I played a ton of Valhalla, but then of course with Game Pass coming into the mix, that changed, what a console launch looked like.
Right.
And so while Valhalla was like my big open world game, I think I might have played more Tetris Effect Connected in that first, 2 or 3 months than anything, as compared to the rest of the launch titles. But also Forza Horizon 4 got some Series X improvements on launch, and that game ran as well as Forza Horizon 5. So I put, dozens and dozens of hours into that over the course of the first couple of months of launch. But a nice a little palette of racing and of puzzle games and of adventure games, and there was a lot going on there.
Yeah, man, it was a smattering of goodness back then too, and anybody who had upgraded from the one, maybe the VCR version or the S to the One X, kind of had been around that block once or twice before in the enhancements that come along with the X, and it was a wonderful feeling seeing, even just the way that the games are organized. You can see them kind of get chosen, and they rise above to that category at the top, going like optimized for Series X or S. And one by one, the game started to do that. Valhalla was definitely up there for me. Gears 5 was one, and actually kind of continued on when Hivebusters came out. That was such a highlight for me. And yeah, probably underappreciated just given where Xbox was this time last year. And I'm sure we'll talk about the journey that the company and the system has been on. But Gears 5 is so amazing. And I was really looking for how the power, all the teraflops, all the frames that I wasn't expecting, to be honest with you guys. Like, I was looking for just our traditional move to the next generation. Things will be shinier, things will be flashier, but I wasn't expecting 120 frames out of these things. So, and I'm my memory is a little fuzzy here. I don't remember if I was doing Ori on launch or shortly afterwards. But Ori and the Will of the Wisps is definitely something that comes to mind when I think about either 4K, or I think they had like a 6K mode or something crazy like that. So.
I forgot, but I know they had like 120 FPS, I think, too.
Yeah, just at 4K, but then you can get super samplings. So yeah, really, really excellent from anything as detailed and heavy duty as Gears 5 to Call of Duty was one of the first ones also to get the enhancements with Cold War going into Ori. So man, good times. I was also playing the game of how fast is this game gonna load? Because we had our new SSDs, and it was such a different experience from that perspective, and which games are gonna have quick resume and all these things. Like there was a meta game on top of like the games you were gonna play that for me, and I'm such a dork about these sorts of things that I had a lot of fun doing that. Like I think that Grand Theft Auto went from 2 minutes of loading to 30 seconds, and I was stoked about that. So things like that, man.
Isn't GTA 4 like fully 60 FPS on the Series X? I think it is. It really is. Yeah, all of those, like, they just auto HDR and auto updates that you don't have to do anything. These quote unquote free masters that were happening. It wasn't necessarily about a launch lineup. At least it wasn't for me. For some people were looking for, but what am I going to play? It's like, for me, as a sort of storied PC gamer back in my youth, I've been waiting for this in the console landscape to just get more horsepower, not do anything, and have the games run better, faster, smoother. So I was super happy with the launch of the Series X. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't buy the Series X for its exclusives at all. I wanted to replay games at higher resolutions, higher frame rates. Just playing Skyrim for one, I've always had trouble playing Skyrim on my PC, even though it's good enough PC. It just for some reason, it just never really, it's just unoptimized for me for some reason. But there it is on Series X, and this is even without like the anniversary edition coming out in like a day from now. But just playing that in 60 FPS, playing Fallout 4 at 60 FPS, even like I was playing The Evil Within 2 during the Halloween.
Oh, it's so good.
Yes, exactly. And like there was already performance mode on the Xbox One X version, but on the Series X version, you take advantage of that extra horsepower. The frame rate's just way more stable that way. And it's just, this is what I wanted to see. This is what I really wanted to see happen before this generation occurred, was the remasters like should be gone, done. No more like full price remasters. Rockstar, Grand Theft Auto 5, no more of that. Rockstar, get the memo. But just already give these games additional horsepower, like without any charge whatsoever. Like there are still companies that are charging extra for like the enhancements, like Bethesda's doing that with the Anniversary Edition, unless you have Game Pass, which we'll talk way more about Game Pass in a bit. But the Xbox Series X has totally just been giving us that goodness. You go and play a game like Black on the original Xbox, and it doesn't look like a new game, but it's higher, way higher resolution now. And right now I'm playing Fable Anniversary Edition, which I think also has updated 4K resolution as well. I wish it had a frame rate boost, but that's a story for another time. But it's all great stuff. I bought the Series X just to get like the best experience playing those older games that are even available on Game Pass. But Sam, I want to talk to you for a bit because right now you have a podcast all about Xbox. You got the green lights behind you, total Xbox fan, right? But
Huge.
I was watching your video reviewing Xbox Game Pass, and like that wasn't really the case for you a few years ago. You were more of a PlayStation guy, weren't you?
Yeah, so I grew up totally playing PlayStation, and it was one of those things where, like, my parents were loyal to the PlayStation brand, so by default, I was also a PlayStation kid.
And that's why you got kicked out of the house, I see.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I have an apartment now. But I grew up on PlayStation, and I love what PlayStation brings, you know, with all these huge exclusives and stuff like that. But Xbox has done this fantastic move of not only investing in their original IP, and building out this library of first-party games, but they've also innovated their business model to deliver them in a way that makes them accessible in a way unlike ever before. And so I can confidently say that I've played more games over the past year than I have in any other year previously. Just because for $15 a month, I mean, I think I bought 2 years of Game Pass on a Black Friday sale a couple of years ago, and I don't even think about it. Like, I just know that, like, I'll have GTA San Andreas waiting there for me, the remaster ready to go. I don't have to buy the trilogy unless I want to, or I don't have to buy the game independently. With Halo Infinite, don't have to worry about buying that. With Forza Horizon 5, don't have to worry about it. I just play it. And so, for the accessibility and the new games that they're introducing, I just went ahead and went all in on Xbox this generation, and the more that I've spent time with it, the more that I've fallen in love with it. And, you know, like you said, that's why I've got the green lights, the Xbox podcast. It's just, it's my new love, you know? That's really what it comes down to.
Xbox really did a 180 this generation. Like, we all remember when the Xbox One launched, it was just nothing but like, oh, DRM this. And even when they went back on the DRM stuff, it was still kind of like just a tainted image for the Xbox One right there. But then comes the Series X, and it really just, they've become more pro-consumer here with pretty much Game Pass, and that's what makes the Series X and Series S the most unique, not the most unique machines like on this generation. Like, I think this is one of those rare generations where each system has like a de facto, like, here's why you should get this, here's why you should get this, here's why you should get this. It's not always just about like, Xbox has always been given crap for not having as many exclusives as PlayStation, but now they have Game Pass, and that's like a really good reason to get an Xbox.
Well, it's funny. We've been doing the Xbox Drive for a number of years at this point. We started the show before anybody liked Xbox, to be honest with you. You know, we broke the story, or we reported on it. We didn't break it, but we reported on the story when Game Pass became a thing. And then I remember the day that they announced that first-party games were going to come out day and date onto Game Pass. And I had to read and reread that press release, I think, 3 or 4 times to really, like, I felt like there was going to be a catch. I felt like there's going to be like except for this, or in this case, it's going to happen here, or maybe there's a special tier for something else. Like, and that didn't happen. And I feel like when I think about what Xbox has done over the last couple of years since then, is you're always expecting there to be some sort of like, yeah, but there isn't. They're so crystal clear in their messaging. They've really learned to simplify the messaging, to focus on what the benefits are to gamers. And it just has translated into something where you can't really tear it down anymore. And prior to that, they couldn't land anything. They tried to launch a console and they couldn't land that. They tried to remove Kinect to kind of remedy some of the launch problems there, and they could not make up any ground. And I really do feel like Game Pass is one of the things, but also even just moving away from the VCR Xbox to the One S, then to the One X, is like, that was when things started to change around a little bit. And games going day and date into Game Pass was one thing, and now we're seeing in 2021 a really exciting time where cool games that you wouldn't expect to be launching into Game Pass are. And what a huge moment was earlier this year when MLB The Show, a game made by Sony, got launched in. It seemed more of like a schoolyard, oh, he totally got him kind of moment. And then Outriders, of course, many of us enjoyed that game, and more than that. So it has really changed the game. I will say this: I think for my spending on Nintendo, Game Pass is the best thing that's ever happened to Nintendo, because I'm not spending money on Xbox anymore. I've got my subscription for Game Pass for years to come. And so it has opened up my spending in other ways. And in general, I just enjoy video games. To Sam's point, like I just play way more games now. And there's something new and exciting to be talking about all the time. You never know. Like there could be an announcement tomorrow that another cool batch of games are coming into Game Pass. So the way they're leveraging this tool to grow and cultivate relationships with new partners, new developers, and publishers in a way that I think that they struggled with to do that organically before. I think about the timed exclusivity for Rise of the Tomb Raider, kind of nasty, didn't really, again, didn't land. Really cool game, one of my favorite games of the generation. That announcement did not land at all. And now they're able to do something very, I don't know, almost like more underhanded, like go snag day one into Game Pass for MLB The Show, and people are stoked about it. So that to me kind of indicated a bit of a tide turning where fans and gamers in general are reacting differently to Xbox news and updates now than they were before. That's not to say that everything is better now. People still have maybe problems with the Bethesda, and there's talks of monopoly and things like that. But I would say for the most part, Xbox really turned the tide, and people are looking at them with more positivity than not these days.
I agree, yeah. And, you know, you talk about how the Rise of the Tomb Raider exclusivity didn't really land. Like, can you imagine what it would be like if Xbox bought Bethesda in 2015?
Right.
My goodness. Like, there's already people mad that Microsoft bought Bethesda already, but now it's kind of just like, I watch this and I'm like, okay, this is this type of insane competition that I want to see happen in this industry. It's so good because a part of it is like I have a Series X already, I have a PC, but I'm just like, you know what, play everything on Series X. I don't care anymore. So now it's like I'll still get to play like Elder Scrolls 6 in 2030. So that's really cool. Sam, tell me about your thoughts on Bethesda like buying Xbox, because I'm already like flustered thinking about it because it just means so much. Not Bethesda buying Xbox, Microsoft buying Bethesda. I
was getting ready to say, I was like, I think that either I misread it, and I've been very wrong for a long time.
It was a counter buy, you see.
Yeah, but obviously one of the biggest deals ever in the gaming universe. Like, it was monumental when the news broke. Kind of like Sean said earlier, I had to reread it 3 times. I was like, you bought what? It's like if Ford sent out something and they're like, we're buying Tesla. I'm sorry, what? But whenever the news came out, I think that people would have been more nervous about it if Xbox hadn't been making all the right moves this generation. Because you see, you know, very well executed distribution models. You see accessibility being first and foremost. You see a lot of good points being made to where you feel like Bethesda is now in good hands. And even looking back, where Bethesda and Xbox have been longtime partners. I mean, we had a lot of Morrowind exclusivity there. I think it was a console exclusive, if I remember correctly, on Xbox. And so that partnership and that rapport is already there, to where these people are natural partners where they can build on that in years to come and make it better than ever before. I'm curious as to how the public persona, or the public perception, I should say, changes whenever Starfield launches and whenever Elder Scrolls 6 launches. But in the same way that I'll buy a PS5 to play God of War Ragnarok, people are going to have to buy an Xbox or get a gaming PC or subscribe to the cloud to get access to Elder Scrolls or Doom or whatever they choose to make exclusive. And that's just the nature of corporate competition in the gaming space. And, you know, that's just the way it's going to be. I personally don't have a problem with it because, like I said, I'm cool with it going the other way. But it's monumental no matter how you cut it.
It really is. And did that announcement happen after the Series X launched? I'm trying to remember when that announcement was made. It was like earlier this year, wasn't it? I don't believe
so.
Oh,
yeah,
it was before that?
I think so. Sean, you might know more than I do.
Man, time is a weird thing right now in this pandemic, man. I know the last couple of years have kind of blurred together. It must have been, yeah, because we knew about it going into E3 this year, right? Because this last June we had Todd and the team kind of all part of it. So it must have been just before that. Yeah. I think before the launch of the Series X, for sure.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I can't believe it's just been a year, man.
It has only just been a year. There's There's been
but
so much.
through that purchase, Microsoft, I think, kind of secured its place as kind of the owner, really, of Western RPGs and also single player games. I think about Bethesda at E3 maybe 2-3 years ago had a real focus on single player games still matter at a time when everything was going battle royale and everything was multiplayer, and people were really worried that maybe the single player experience was maybe going away. And I feel like this really fills in a gap for Xbox, and you see games like State of Decay and oh my goodness gracious, Sea of Thieves, State of Decay, all these games, like just these forever online experiences. And people might have been a little bit worried, like, is that all Xbox is going to be doing? And with Bethesda, let's give a safe haven for some of the most storied franchises in video game history. They're going to be dedicated upon, and I really look forward to seeing what's next. I want my Quake reimagining, just like they did with Doom and just like they did with Wolfenstein. I feel like that's next, and that was one of the things that I'm just most excited about. And what a variety of studios. Of course, people think about Elder Scrolls and Fallout, but I personally love The Evil Within and The Evil Within 2. And all the rest that kind of come along with that. I love what Machine Games has done. Going to be very interested to see what happens with Indiana Jones and to see if that's a multi-platform kind of deal or what. But I also think Microsoft and Xbox has a lot of flexibility with this deal. They can do certain things. They can pull back where they need to. They can make it exclusive. I think Starfield's going to be a massive deal. I was just reading a piece, I think it was just today, Todd Howard talking about how it was now or never. It was either they work on Starfield now or they go on to the next Elder Scroll, next Skyrim game. And this is it. Now they're doing it, and they'll do Elder Scrolls next, which is awesome. And I just can't wait to see what they do after 6 or 7 years of developing this new IP, and it'll be an Xbox IP. This is exactly what people were complaining about the whole time.
Yep.
And Xbox addressed it in kind of the biggest, baddest way. Just like, oh snap. It just changed everybody's perspective. If anybody thought Xbox was only just limping into the console experience, that they're all in, and that's all anybody can really think about when they see Xbox now. Mm-hmm. They're all in.
That is exactly it. And let's reflect on this past year more specifically now. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't play my Series X as much as I played my PS5 and my Switch, but I still played it quite a bit. I know I break your heart right there. But even then, I've just been playing it recently a lot just to revisit some Xbox 360 games, like Fable's one of them. I even played Call of Duty Black Ops 2, because that's like the GOAT of Call of Duty to me.
Nice.
Yeah, so I still use that machine frequently just to, relive some memories. But I haven't played most of the exclusives that have launched this past year. Off the top of my head, the only 2 exclusives I can think of that launched this year were The Medium, way back in January, and Forza Horizon 5, which literally came out like this week, and that was actually pretty good. Those games aren't really kind of my thing, but I'm sticking through it just to really get absorbed into that world. And it's next gen, still current gen, but Forza game, and I just like looking at pretty graphics. Any highlights from Xbox this year that you want to bring up, Sean?
I mean, how can you not talk about Forza right now? This is heading, and I feel like it kind of kicks off a really important holiday season for them. And as Halo comes out very soon here as well. It was not exclusive, but Psychonauts really surprised me this year. And of course, like I think of it differently just because it launched into Game Pass.
Yep.
And even though it wasn't exclusive, it's like, why would you play it anywhere else? Like if you have Game Pass, why would you pay for it somewhere else? So that definitely was a huge surprise because I didn't really play too much of the first Psychonauts and went on a journey there, and it really hit me in the heart big time. They did a wonderful job translating the flight simulator game to the console experience as well. And a lot of people just chilling out, man, just flying from wherever, just taken to the skies. And they did a great job with that because I thought it was a really complicated game on PC. I wasn't really sure that they were going to be able to do it. And there's a couple of examples like that throughout this year of this thing is powerful, and it's not like it's blowing a PS5 out of the water. In some cases, some games are performing even better on PS5, but I think we're still yet to see the power of the Series X. But I don't know. You're right. Like, there's not a whole lot of exclusives, but that's not really why I bought it.
Yeah, it's not why I bought it either.
I have played a ton of my Series X and my Series S as well. Series S for me is my streaming machine. I don't need 4K. I can't stream in 4K.
Nope.
So that's kind of where that thing lies. And I just went on a trip and brought my Series S with me. It fit in my backpack. It was a beautiful experience. So yeah, it was a lot about Game Pass day and date more than exclusives this year. And I knew that going in.
Right.
So I was glad that still kind of held up for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the same way. Like I said, I didn't buy this thing for exclusives. I bought it for Game Pass, and I bought it for like the games that were going to show up on it, which some of them just happen to be exclusives. But Sam, any Xbox highlights from this past year that you want to bring up?
I think I'm kind of in the same boat with you guys, where we're in a very transitional period right now, where the big AAA games that Xbox will roll out, they're just now starting to hit, where I would consider Forza Horizon 5 to be the first next generation game from Xbox in like a big way. And then, of course, Halo Infinite's going to be massive when it launches with the free-to-play multiplayer and stuff. But in terms of what I spent time with over the past year, which, again, crazy to think that it's been a year since the Series X launched, but it is those big day-and-date games where whenever Hades made the jump over outside of Nintendo Switch console exclusivity, that hit Xbox on day one. That was massive. So I spent time with Hades there. Death's Door is one that comes to mind that is a big standout indie hit. And then the Medium, like you mentioned. But I also think that it would be poor not to mention stuff like Back 4 Blood, where while it might not be the standout experience of the year, the fact that it launched on Game Pass opens it up to so many more people, to where if you just have a group of friends that plays on Xbox, and whether that be PC or a console, you can dive in and you can have that classic Left 4 Dead style experience without any kind of $60 overhead. And so to open up these games, whether it be indies or big first party titles or whatever it might be, to such a large audience of people, it's been great to be able to jump in and, like Sean said, save money, buy other games, pay bills even, maybe, who knows.
Seriously.
Yeah, but it's been awesome just to be able to have so much more or so many more experiences rather than just buying 3 or 4 games a year, because like I'm not made of money. So it's nice to have dozens of games every month. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. It is really nice. Even if you don't use Game Pass like religiously, like you're still saving by being subscribed to it, because like games are going up to be $70. Like I still think the Xbox exclusives are still $60, but even then, play 2 or 3 big time releases, that's your money right there. You spend it all. I mean, Game Pass Ultimate, that's more money there, but still, like, it still saves you a lot more if you just play it every once in a while like I do, and not every single day like these guys do, which is just great. Game Pass is a revolutionary service that, frankly, we don't talk about enough, and we still talk about it a lot. I
was going to say, I mean, it pretty much dominates the conversation, and it reminds me of the early days of the PS4, where, the big games were still kind of, and the Xbox One, of course, but PlayStation had a really specific strategy back when their first-party stuff and the big titles were few and farther between. They filled the gaps with indies, and that was and people were happy to play them. They were happy to eat up every single game they could possibly get on their new PS4. That was clearly, at least even for me, that was the better choice. I had made the decision at that time that I was going to play even third-party games over on my PlayStation, and my Xbox was going to be my Sunset Overdrive machine, I guess, like my exclusives there. And so
exactly
this time,
what it was.
Right, and that's kind of, I was jealous of the people who got the white Xbox, the VCR version. That was very sweet. They had a great bundle there. But I feel like it's a similar strategy here in Xbox land this time around. But instead of having to buy these indie games, these the Hades or the Tetris Effect Connected, these types of things, these smaller games, a lot of the attention goes to the Gears of the world, the MLBs, the Outriders, things like that. But what did we spend our time playing? There were big games. There's Destiny that was added, of course, too, finally. But our time was filled in with games like The Ascent and 12 Minutes and things like that really helped to either be palate cleanser or really chew up a lot of our time outside of the gigantic AAA budget games. There's a really, really good mix here in Game Pass that addresses how people play. It's not just a hype machine. It's, I could use something else. I could play something else at this point in time. Let's try Dodgeball Academia or whatever it was called.
Yep,
or
played
the
that,
new, things like that. That I thought it would really help to liven things up and show that there's a variety of games. There's a couple of things that Xbox has had to battle over the last couple of years. One is that there's no games. So clearly there's games, you get them all the time. And that Xbox equals Halo, Forza, and Gears. And both those things are completely shattered at this time. At least in my mind, they've done a really good job to start that. Now, they're going to get right back into it with Forza and Halo, being probably two stars, but it's not just that. And they don't have to have, every single game doesn't have to be the best game in the world. They can afford to have some things be 80s or 75s, well, because they've got so much. Whereas in the Xbox One days, a game like Quantum Break, because it wasn't the level of what Sony had, it's like Xbox is a failure because there's nothing else around it. So it's just very, very different in Xbox lands these days.
It really is. And to close this conversation, I want to ask you, gentlemen, one thing. This next year coming up, it's going to be a big one already with Halo at the beginning of like year 2 of Xbox Series X. But I also want to know, like, what's one thing you want to see from Xbox come this next year? It could be a game, could be a feature, it could be anything. I feel like I should have asked you this before the discussion, but let's see what we got. Sam, let's start with you.
Picking one is so difficult because, like, if I could pick one that I'm excited, it's probably going to be to see more of Avowed. I think that I think it's Obsidian's RPG is going to be massive, just to see an innovative new take on that kind of world. I want to see something that's not Skyrim, so I'm excited to see what they learned from Fallout New Vegas and to build it out more. But if I can get another one, it's to implement HDR on the home screen so that my 4K TV doesn't flicker when I'm starting up a game.
I hate that so much.
Because it's like, I've seen it in 1080p on a regular screen, and the motion of home screen to game is so smooth that's completely lost, to where I thought something was wrong with my Xbox for the first, 2 weeks. I'm like, are other people seeing this right now? But to be able to implement HDR would be another, if I could get to, feature that I'd like to see.
Very nice. You cheated, so I'm going to kick you out of this call right
sorry.
now. I'm just... All right, Sean, what about you?
A couple things. I have to just
you can say a couple things. You don't got to say one.
Well, I think that PlayStation did a nice job with their pricing on a discless version of the console. I thought that was really good. So to see an additional SKU, I think would be really great. I'd like to see the next iteration of the Elite controller. I think that would be great. And also for them to address some of the issues, I think, in terms of the manufacturing of that controller. It really needs to be a top tier type of thing. A lot of accessories. I could throw a lot of money into accessories at this thing, man. If they brought back the old Sidewinder, if anybody's played PC games back in the day, if they could bring a Sidewinder, it could play some with joystick stuff. But I mentioned before, Quake. I want to see Quake. I want to see them dive back into some of their IP that they now own. I'd like to see either Rare or them partner with another studio that they could revive some of the old Rare properties. It doesn't necessarily have to be Rare. They're working on everything. They got the Sea of Thieves and their Everwild or whatever it's called. They've got all these things going on. But I like what Sony is doing and other teams are doing, where another group is bringing back like Crash Trilogy or Spyro, the trilogy there. Like a lot of different teams are doing remasters of older games. It doesn't have to be the original team. And I do think that you could do something with Banjo. I think that would be really cool. Viva Pinata. There's a lot of stuff there that people would be really stoked to see them bring back to life, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on your Rare point, because I'm just like, Microsoft, it's about time. You got to bring the Bear and the Bird back, dude. What are you doing? I remember, I think Phil Spencer said something like, we want a mascot like Crash or something. I don't remember exactly what he said. Everyone's just like, are you kidding me, Phil?
If only, like, where are we gonna get one of those?
Really though, it's just so disappointing. But another feature that I want to see, now that we have EA in Game Pass Ultimate, Ubisoft needs to swallow their pride and jump on to Game Pass, like straight up, because I want to play Far Cry 6, but I don't want to spend money on it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm in the same boat with that. I just wonder, at what point do they add so many services that they have to raise the price of this thing?
I know. Right. That's the problem.
Like if you're keeping it at a $10 for the console, $15 for Ultimate that includes the live price point, I mean, the way I describe it is that's like a massive, awesome trip to Taco Bell every month. You know what I mean? Like that price point, like that is so unlike Taco Bell. That's a digestible price. You know what I mean? And so you got to keep it. You got to keep it around there. And so if you have Uplay, EA, and Xbox games in there, like that's a lot of content that somebody's got to pay money for, you know? And so I'm curious at what point they choose to raise the price and how much they eat before it takes that leap and it goes up to $20 a month or whatever. But yeah, I would love to see you play in there.
Yeah, because we got to eat that Taco Bell, you know?
Got to eat that Taco Bell, man. Got to get those XP. Got to get those XP cups, you know?
Yes.
I think one other thing that we can maybe look forward to is a little bit more equalization of Game Pass and xCloud or whatever we're calling that these days. I think that there's still the vision is for it to be a unified experience, but they still are pretty separate. Game Pass for PC is very different than Game Pass for console, and what games are available across all these different things. I think that they could do themselves a good favor just making that as similar as possible, because I love going from my Series S to my Series X and my PC. Like the cross save stuff is so seamless, and it is not like that on my Nintendo. It certainly isn't like that on my PlayStation. And they could do even more than that. They have created a near endless ecosystem across all these different devices. Maybe just making them a little bit more seamless than they are right now. They've got some work to do on that front, I think, to really go after the 2 trillion gamers that they're after, whatever the number is.
The 2 trillion gamers, wow.
Give or take.
Give or take. Right, but thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on this anniversary discussion for the Xbox Series X and S. Tell me, Sean, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. And every single week I record the Xbox Drive. It's an Xbox podcast I record in my car. I go through the McDonald's drive-thru and grab a coffee and some drinks for my wife. Talk to my friend Ryan Turford about all the things in Xbox. You can find it on all the podcast services around the globe or at youtube.com/YumiCapri.
Very nice. And Sam, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me over on Twitter at JamPackSam, and then I host Exhibition and Xbox Podcast over on YouTube and on podcast services every Sunday. But come to that after you check out Sean's show. It's really good. Like you should go.
Do his first. You
should go check his out. But yeah,
I'll decide what you guys check out first. But thank you everyone for watching this episode here on GameXplain. What did you feel the first year of the Xbox Series X was like? Let us know in the comments below. And check out the videos on the right for more topics you might be interested in. But until next time, bye.